Hello and welcome to Bingewatch, the podcast where we take a look at the hottest new TV and film releases on streaming television platforms. I'm Hannah Fernando, the editor-in-chief of Woman and Home magazine.
And I'm Ian McEwan, writer on TV and Satellite Week, TV Times and What's on TV magazines. And today we're looking at the new releases that will be available on Friday the 10th of April 2026, including a grown-up Malcolm in the Middle on Disney+, and football drama Saipan about the 2002 World Cup clash between Ireland manager Mick McCarthy and captain Roy Keane on Prime Video.
And we'll also check out the return of Hugh Bonneville's long-suffering executive Ian Fletcher in football-themed comedy 2026 on BBC iPlayer, and Macfadyen as an inventor who accidentally shrinks his spouse, of course, in The Miniature Wife on Now TV.
We've all been there.
But first, Ian, what is in the news? I just forgot that line.
First up, hopefully my audio is better this week, and I'd like to apologise for the dreadful sound quality in last week's pod. But in other news, beloved children's channel CITV is no more as of the 10th of April. What else is in the news, Hannah?
I can't believe that. Wow. Well, Gwyneth Paltrow will star in Netflix drama Strangers about a New York lawyer adjusting to life after her husband leaves her.
A good selection this week. Quite a lot of laughs, I would say. Not necessarily from us. We're going to start on Prime Video with the feature film Saipan. And here's a clip.
Now the game's changed, and we need to be prepared. We're going to have to work, aren't we?
And to acclimatise. There's been a bit of an issue. I've been promised some things that haven't been delivered.
We don't have footballs.
You can manage without that stuff.
Without footballs.
So this was released in cinemas, and if you haven't heard of it, it's all about what happened to the Ireland team at the 2002 World Cup in South Korea and Japan, and specifically the big bust-up between manager Mick McCarthy and captain Roy Keane. Okay, so playing McCarthy, you have Steve Coogan, who is so good at playing real-life people, isn't he? He's done quite a varied selection of them, including Jimmy Savile, of course. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but it's Ina Hardwick plays Roy Keane. So I think this is very much an issue that polarises, well, football fans, I guess, and probably particularly Irish football fans, because Roy Keane, who's, star player for Manchester United, quite a pretty acerbic character, very, aggressive player, brilliant player, but as it turns out, uncompromising in this. So he ended up coming home from the World Cup without playing at all after a big argument with the manager. And in fact, Ireland did very well in that competition, and they were unlucky to go out on penalties. I think they got through to the last 16. So yeah, imagine what they might have achieved if Roy Keane had stayed. So yeah, it's brilliantly done. I think particularly the portrayal of Keane. I mean, I always used to just say, he let his country down. But I think this gives him the much fairer hearing in that he goes to the World Cup, wanting to do it properly, and the facilities that the Irish team are given are laughable. Like, they don't even have any footballs, and the pitch they're playing on is just all stony. So, and the catering is horrendous, and also a lot of the Irish contingent, in terms of the team and then the entourage, they're kind of treating it as a jolly. And he's like, I don't want Ireland just to be there as the entertainment. I want us to perform, and I want us, So, and of course, all of that you can understand. However, from start to finish, it is the Roy Keane show, in that it's just all about his drama, all about his problems, So he threatens to leave once, then he's persuaded to stay, and then they have this big showdown, which is brilliantly done. And in fact, I remember the words being quoted in the press. So I think it's very close to what happened. And the things that he said to McCarthy, awful verbal abuse, personal abuse, he couldn't stay after that. So he said, I'm going. And McCarthy said, I'm sending you home anyway. But yeah, I don't think you need to be a football fan because, well, there's barely any football in it. Well, mainly because they haven't got footballs. It's just a really good portrayal of two real life men. I mean, McCarthy, Keane kind of questions his Irish credentials, but he did play for Ireland, and he always seemed like, I felt like he always seemed like quite a sort of affable guy. I mean, you never know, but this certainly, yeah, although I'd say it's quite sympathetic to Keane, it just shows him as a very uncompromising person. And yeah, it's kind of just the drama just follows him. Everything has to be his way or not at all. So it's such an interesting chapter in football history, and I thought it was very well done. What did you think, Hannah?
Well, football is like theatre sometimes, isn't it? I sometimes do think that they're acting more than anything else when they roll over some air. You wouldn't see rugby players doing that, would you, Ian McEwen? Anyway, I digress. My point being is that, you're never bigger than the club, but football is also, I don't know, that there seems to be a narrative, a story around everything, doesn't there? Whatever World Cup there is or whatever big match, there always seems to be some kind of drama on the pitch, off the pitch. We're interested in their personal lives. We're interested in absolutely everything. And I often think, and I am digressing slightly because you kind of really articulated what this is about, but what I do think is that I liken these to child stars. They're very, very young when they get all this money. They don't really know how to behave. Who are the people around them? Who are the people looking after them? This sense of entitlement that really comes across in this, which is understandable, I guess. If you're so young, you have all this money, you've got everyone throwing themselves at you. How are you supposed to behave? Who are those people protecting you? And I think this is the same with child stars, footballers. They're all kind of the same mould, aren't they? And so then you do see some bad behaviour. I think in this, like you say, he gets a much better hearing than perhaps people remember it. But again, it is all the drama and we're still talking about it. And football has been ever thus. But, as Alex Ferguson said, you're never bigger than the club. And I think that's the point that everyone's got to remember.
Yes, indeed. Well, over on Disney Plus, we have a new comedy called Malcolm in the Middle. Life's Still Unfair. And here's a clip.
Yeah, I look different. But hey, everything about me is different. I have a girlfriend. And the best thing in the whole world, my daughter Leah.
Dad, quit it.
My life is fantastic. All I have to do is stay completely away from my family.
Well, I remember this when it ran first time round. I mean, it was a multi-Emmy winning comedy. I mean, it was ridiculous. And anyone that remembers this, it ran for 7 seasons. It was so incredibly popular. And it sort of focused around this family who had 4 sons, and the middle son, they're 4 sons, partly in the middle, sort of in the middle, Malcolm in the middle out of 4, you work that out, was a genius, a child prodigy, really. And that's kind of where we left it. But he was always the awkward one, always one didn't really fit in, embarrassed by his family, etc., etc., etc. Now, when this comes back, he is a middle-aged Malcolm. He is not the Malcolm that we left back in 2006, and we're back to this very dysfunctional middle-class family. These tearaway sons, other than Malcolm. Malcolm's gone to Harvard. Turns out, as we find out in the first episode, he didn't return home. He was just totally embarrassed. And this family, being as wacky as it is, didn't sort of seem to realise that he wasn't around or see it as a problem or anything particularly. He's gone and got a partner. He has a child. He's living his very own best life. So straight away you're back into the chaos. If you remember Malcolm in the Middle from first time round, you're straight away back into the chaos. And I think it does kind of work. It's a bit of a weird concept coming back when he's this much older, but it just does kind of work. And there's some very weird storylines and weird behaviours from these parents. As I say, if you watch the first lot of episodes, you'll kind of get used to and you'll know what they're like. And he's a successful businessman. He's a charity executive, and he's been shielding, as he sees it, his family, his teenage daughter Leah, from this crazy family for over a decade. But his parents want him to return for their 40th wedding anniversary, and it turns out his wife and child didn't even know that they existed. So then ensues all the getting to know them on the Zoom calls, all the crazy questions they get asked, and how these two worlds collide. It just delivers. It's really quite funny. It's really, really silly. I think if you enjoyed it, the Malcolm in the Middle as it was, I think you'll still enjoy it. It's quite bizarre, but I did have some moments where I did actually laugh out loud, particularly at the parents. There's one scene where she's shaving all of the hair off him, the husband, while he's on a Zoom call. And when I say all of the hair, I'll leave that one there. Okay, Ian, what did you think?
I really liked it, and I laughed a lot, like you. And I don't think I watched Malcolm in the Middle the first time round. I was aware of it, and yeah, Frankie Muniz, who played Malcolm, is now 40, but because I kind of associate him with that role, he still looks so young to me. But yes, I'm a middle child, invisible child, but not a prodigy. 2 words to say about this. Bryan Cranston as the dad. He is absolutely hilarious. The stuff he gets up to in the first episode, especially there's this scene he wants to make all these romantic gestures to his wife for their anniversary. And well, I don't want to give anything away, but it's just very, very funny. And yeah, Muniz is great as Malcolm, who I think a lot of people will relate to this, who thinks, my life is pleasant if I have nothing to do with my family, and that's what he's trying to continue doing. But of course, they're not going to let him. So yeah, I mean, reviving a comedy like this years later is fraught with danger, but it really, really works. And I thought it was, extremely funny. Over on Sky Atlantic and Now TV, we have a new drama called The Miniature Wife. And here's a clip.
My husband and I, we take turns supporting each other. So he supported me through my first book. Now it's my turn.
My turn is yet to win me the Nobel.
The Nobel. Are you joking? Honey.
Not at all. I am creating the bioagrotech that will change the world. I call it the miracle of miniaturization.
This is the top secret project you've been working on?
Oh no, Lindy.
So yes, people being miniaturized is quite a trope, isn't it, in books and films and TV series? Alice in Wonderland, Ant-Man, Land of the Giants, that kind of thing. Yes, and now it's getting a new twist in this, as the title suggests. It's a spouse who gets shrunk. So it's a 10-parter. It stars the fantastic Matthew Macfadyen, who, among his many great roles, of course, he was in Succession. And he plays this inventor and scientist called Les Littlejohn. And Elizabeth Banks from The Hunger Games plays his wife, Lindy, who is a novelist. And their marriage has been on the rocks. They're trying to get it back on track, to mix metaphors. And yeah, her debut novel was a big hit, and now he feels like it's his time to shine. And he's invented this shrinking ray that I won't try and explain it, but you'll see from episode 1 that the idea behind it is that it could revolutionize food production and, potentially end hunger. However, of course, there's an accident. So basically, he's hosting a party because he needs to get someone to finance this invention, the whole project. And this party is being thrown to kind of butter up a potential investor. And of course, Lindy starts getting really drunk, and she's got previous on this. There was an incident at a previous party where she ended up in the swimming pool. Anyway, a blazing row ensues. She accidentally sets off the gizmo, and when she wakes up, she's in this doll's house, which he has sort of kitted out to look like the inside of their home. And with his shrinking ray, he's miniaturized lots of things that she might need to use. The problem is that he hasn't perfected the process for putting things back to their original size. So it's a great idea. It's a nice idea. And there's the way it's, also there's a lot of camera trickery, which is really well done to make him look really big and her look really small. And Macfadyen is just great at playing these kind of slightly highly strung, but kind of optimistic, but tortured characters who are kind of reaching beyond what they can actually achieve. And he brings exactly that kind of tension to this role. And of course, it's rather, a bit of a different way to look at a sort of stormy marriage. Of course, you remember things like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Rick Moranis. I think, there was a bit of a phase of this kind of thing back in the 80s. And, it's good fun. I enjoyed episode 1. I'm not sure I'd stick with it for the whole thing, but it's well made and two great leads. What did you think, Hannah?
Well, all I could think of was Grandpa in My Pocket, which is, I don't know if you remember that, but it was a children's program and my kids absolutely loved it, Grandpa in My Pocket. And he would just shrink and then go off and do really naughty, silly things and make them all laugh, because it was a thing that only the kids were on the in-joke for. And it's not the first time this has happened, has it? This old shrinking yarn. We do love it. It works really well. I mean, but she's not really... I thought she'd... In this situation, the obvious thing I should say is for her to be really kind of needy, and she's not at all, is she? She's a really robust character, which I think is what makes this quite interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's something different for this kind of genre, I suppose. You often see it in children's shows, don't you, or a film. This feels that little bit different. And where will it end up? Will she get back to being full size is the question.
Well, watch this space. Well, we're going to finish over on BBC Two and BBC iPlayer with a new comedy called 2026. And here's a clip.
It's the biggest sporting event in the world.
The 2026 tournament.
Football is a funny game.
When you say he's here...
His name is here.
Okay.
It's never over until it's over.
This is our moment, right?
Essentially, we're in the toilet and we're going to have to come out.
Yeah, nice one.
Will!
Oh, yeah, hi, yeah.
And it's one game at a time.
Right, like hashtag change the game, right?
Did I miss something, or is this a lot worse than I thought?
I mean, at least we know where we are now, so that's all good.
Look, I'm going to be really honest with you, Ian. I have watched one episode of this and I'm none the wiser. So I'm going to try really, really hard to explain what goes on here and then hand it over to your capable hands. I didn't think I wasn't capable of watching and understanding something, but it seems this has literally flown over my head. So here we go. David Tennant. There's some big names here. It should be really good. I just don't get it. David Tennant, Doctor Who. He is the narrator. Point 1. Yep. Winning. Got that. It's 6 parts. Yeah, number 2, got that 6-parter. And Hugh Bonneville from Downton Abbey. So there we go. We've got some pretty good names here. Hugh Skinner as well from the Windsors. They reprise their role. So some of you will have already seen this before and will already be enjoying it. And perhaps that's my problem. I hadn't. But basically, they reprise their roles as their long-suffering executive Ian Fletcher and his bumbling aide Will Humphreys. And you've got this narration the whole way through, as I say, from David Tennant. And last time we saw it was the 2012 Summer Olympics. Now we are here in 2026 for, it's kind of a mockumentary style, but it's, I don't know, it reminded me slightly, I'm jumping everywhere now, but it reminded me slightly of The Office. I just found it really corny and kind of, I felt like I just wasn't getting the jokes. It was in jokes. I just couldn't get the people annoyed me. The characters irritated me. They're all arguing a lot of the time, and I thought their arguments were pointless and needless, and they just need to get on with it. Probably been paid a lot of money to sit on that board in that nice office and just get on with their roles. And they're trying to sort out this opening ceremony of this obviously global football tournament, and where the semi-finals are going to be and where they're not going to be. I got really bored in. I'm not going to lie to you. I watched episode 1 and I did not see the point of it at all. I want to love it. Tell me I'm wrong. I probably am wrong. I probably need to keep watching. But I just felt like it was going absolutely nowhere. You know, we're fortunate enough to get a lot of previews, aren't we, for doing something like this? And you get hooked in almost immediately on so many things. And this, I just felt like I was having to work really hard. And I don't know if it's because I just hadn't sort of seen it before or what, but I was watching it and I just thought, I just don't really understand this narration. I found really distracting by David Tennant. It just felt really awkward and uncomfortable. Just didn't get it in. You help me out here.
Okay. Well,
take me back to the beginning.
I'm sure it helps enormously if you have watched the 2 previous comedy series, W1A, when Ian Fletcher was head of values at the BBC, and then 2012 when he was head of deliverance at the Summer Olympics, and now, as you say, he's at a football tournament. There must have been some kind of legal issue, but it's also slightly done for comedic value, that David Tennant, whenever he says World Cup or FIFA, it's bleeped out, which is quite odd. I will admit that. But yeah, really what appeals about all 3 series is that they're just a very good skewering of kind of office politics and just the bullshit that people come out with in office jobs, in meetings, just and kind of dodging any responsibility or decision making and everything. Yeah, and everything lands on Ian Fletcher, and it just inevitably goes wrong. And so and Hugh Skinner is very, he turns up right at the end of episode 1. So yes, because it's all over in Miami, so there's a lot of American involvement. He's working with a lot of Americans and I think a European, and yes, everyone's got their own kind of agenda and there's a lot of rivalry, and yeah, they've got to sort out I think they've got to sort out some of which venues and which countries are going to host. I think it's the semi-finals, but of course there are only 2, but there are 3 host nations. So yeah, I mean, I think it's quite repetitive in a way, because you're just going to have, you're going to have all these things coming up, lots of meetings, people coming up with their catchphrases. But yeah, it's very well done, I got to say, but it's quite painful to watch, because it's just what he goes through. It's just like, wading through treacle, just the rubbish he has to put up with, and he can't get anything done. So yeah, I am a fan, but I can see if you're coming into this cold, why you would think, what is this? What is this? Well, yes, so we have quite a lot of football content this week. Now, we've got to that time, young Hannah Malazio, where we find out what the hell you've been binge watching.
I finally finished Last One Laughing over the Easter weekend, which obviously I'm not going to reveal who the winner was, but it's just so funny. And then I also started to watch, which we have reviewed, Vladimir which is on Netflix at the moment.
Well, against my better judgment, I don't know how this has happened, but I've got sucked into Married at First Sight Australia again.
Oh, you love it, Ian.
And it's just taking up so many hours of my life.
There's so many not lost hours.
But it is good stuff. The one guy's just joined who is very anti-woke. So I found that quite enjoyable. And he wants a submissive wife. Lovely. Meanwhile, because it was Easter, I mean, there's all these super family films on. So yeah, I rewatched all 3 Toy Story films. And Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. And yeah, absolutely loved it. Now, we've just got time to look ahead to next week's offering. So what is on the Binge Watch menu, Hannah?
Well, I can tell you that two very different couples have beef as the Netflix feud drama returns with a new story and cast, including Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan.
And on BBC iPlayer, Paul McCartney, The Hunt for the Lost Bass, recounts the search for the iconic violin-shaped Hofner bass Macca played with the Beatles. Yes, that's a documentary, of course. So we look forward to those and much, much more. But in the meantime, dear listeners,
keep watching!